The Overstood Human Podcast. Unfiltered dialogue, real solutions, no labels. The Overstood Human Podcast exists to inspire people to live with strength, freedom, and a purpose in a world full of noise and division. We champion a life anchored in true health, strong family, personal sovereignty, and self-discovery, inspiring our listeners to thrive beyond the confines of the design system. Our mission is to inspire you to break free from mediocrity, think independently, and live a life of meaning, resilience, and impact. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Overstood Human Podcast. I am Frank Tortorici.
And my name is Sarah Green.
Sarah, so today's topic is one that is a universal topic, and we spoke a little about this off air. This is something that every single person deals with. I don't care, religion, color, creed, doesn't matter, and that is stress. Stress.
Yes.
Stress is something that unfortunately we all know too well. I don't care who you are, right? I think first and foremost, when we hear the word stress, we automatically think of things happening on the outside world, right? On the outside of us. It's how we process things, right? It's work, family, bills, life, the world, you name it, and everything in between, right? And those are all valid. Obviously, that's stress, right? But then there's also obviously also internal stressors too, of things that we're doing that are causing internal stress, that even when we're supposed to be rested and sleeping and recovering and rejuvenating, we're not resting and we're not getting any of those benefits. And that's like that saying, right? There are people, including myself sometimes, it's like I'll get 6 to 8 hours of sleep, but I wake up and I don't feel rested at all. You know, and that's like that, obviously the non-physical stress, spiritual attacks, or just internalizing things that we're dealing with. So I think there's a lot of beneficial stuff that we can cover here today. I guess my first question to you is well, let's start with us, right? So in your line of, just in your life in general and in your work, so personal and work life, how do you cope with stress? And if you have to name one thing that is a big stress for you, what would that be?
Gosh, I mean, I think that I have so many things that happening in my life, moving parts seems to be kind of all at one time. And my brain's always trying to, deal with or organize and put out fires. But I'm a huge runner. So for me, the way I deal with stress is I exercise. And I think that I don't solve any problems while I'm running or lifting weights. It's really more of just my time to just not actually think. And then I can get back to whatever it is that's going on. So for me, like a good exercise day is a day I feel like the world could fall apart, and I'm able to mentally handle it because I've been able to physically decompress. So that's how I handle it. But gosh, I feel like stress is all around us. It's unavoidable, really. And so how you handle it, and you're right, sleep is vital.
Yeah, and I feel like in our world of health and holistic health and functional health, we always look at the body and things that we're going to do, exercise, eating right, taking supplements. But I feel like what gets overlooked so much is the mind, right? Because the mind, it all starts with the mind, right? Because it's how are we going to deal with the illusion of stress, of whether it be something family related or work related or friendships or whatever. And it's like the mind itself, if that is not right, and all things are not, I don't think all things will ever be in order when it comes to when we go into somebody's mind. There's always elements of chaos and dysfunction and imbalance. I
Hmm.
guess that's part of being a human being. That's what we signed up for when we came here and we entered this earth suit known as the human body, in a sense. I think that's just part of it. Um, but it also, we we need to discipline ourselves with our mind, I think, is what I'm getting at. Like, I think, we can all, I think it's easy to discipline, and again, this is hard for some people too, but I think it, like, for me, it's easy to discipline my body. It's easy to discipline my patterns and habits. What's the hardest discipline for me is disciplining my mind on a daily basis. That I
Hmm.
find to be the hardest thing. And I don't know. What do you feel on that? I mean, is that something that you're in agreement with, or do you think some of those other things are harder? I think the battle of the mind for me is definitely the ultimate fight.
Yeah, I mean, you can do things to distract, but ultimately you're going to have to face whatever the challenge is. So
Hmm.
maybe for me, exercise is a way of just kind of clearing my mind so that I can then handle what's going on. But I tend to recently, especially, like, God is getting me up at 4:30 to read the Bible, and I know it because
Mm,
I tend to put it aside and try, I get busy, and by the time I've tucked kids in and whatnot, it's 10:30 at night. And so doing it at night is more challenging. And so that's probably his way of really just keeping my mind focused and showing me there's someone out there, there's something out there, there's God that's always present.
mhm,
So whatever battle or obstacle that I have to face, I've gotten in the word, and I want to do that more and more. So that is probably a better way for me to really relax the mind. And I'm not a slow down and just sit and quiet kind of person. I'm total type A, and I am always multitasking. I'm working on that, where I feel like I've got like four things happening all at one time, and I know
mm,
that that's just physically that's going to create higher cortisol. And so trying to just handle one thing at a time, whatever
mhm,
is the most the thing that's I'm facing right in front of me is what I tackle first. And so
mm,
getting into the word, I think, really kind of gets me, you know, gets my mind focused. But yeah, I mean, you got to settle the mind too. Yeah,
mm.
absolutely.
Yeah, it's so crucial, because it's like, again, we're always going to have a battle with our thoughts, or a battle of, like, how we're, again, processing things that are happening. And if if we don't take the time, um, to read, whether it's reading the word, um, breathing, trying to still your mind, or just trying to listen to, um, even quantum physics type aspects of the mind, because there is that too, right? There's the subconscious mind, there's the conscious mind. We get these random thoughts, we get these uncontrollable thoughts. Um, Look, we all have trauma through our life, and it's like, even if we experience something that was traumatic, probably even during childhood, it could have, like, set something in stone that's, like, locked in a portion of the brain, that when something of that same energy frequency happens in your adult life, it's triggering something from something that happened 30, 40, 50 years ago, and you get to relive. It's not necessarily the event, but it's the feeling tone of that
Hmm.
emotion, that it brings us back full circle to that place. um, and therefore it's crucial to try to equip ourselves, when I always say, like, when things are good, we tend to let things fall to the side, in the sense of self-help and self-improvement and trying to work on ourselves. But unfortunately, the mind, it goes with us everywhere we go. um,
Hmm.
and it's, again, for me, it's the ultimate battle that any one of us can face. Like, there's nothing that can happen in this external world that we can see with our eyes that is going to be a greater challenge than dealing with our own mind. And I think
Yeah.
that that's true. I say that from my vantage point, and just from all my years of getting to talk to people on a personal level, and you know because of the work that I do, it's beyond just the body aspect. people open up to me on such a deep personal level, and I don't care who the person is, how successful they are, how non-successful they are, it doesn't matter. In between, I just believe wholeheartedly that the greatest opponent for every living being is their mind. It's what I've seen. It's like data that I collectively can put together and say, yes, that is definitely the hardest thing for everybody that I work with, is dealing with themselves, not their coworkers, not their spouse, not their children, not their friends. It doesn't matter. Like, it's dealing with ourselves is the hardest thing to
Mm-hmm.
deal with for most people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that, because that's a constant battle and that's something that we're always in, if we're not balanced with ourselves and within ourselves, then anything that happens in the external that we get to see with our eyes, it just magnifies that imbalance, if you will. We're not, if we're not grounded and rooted with ourselves, then when it hits the fan, we don't know how to respond to it from a balanced state. And as I said just a few sentences ago, a lot of the times when things are happening, they're triggering something that has already happened, and you're
Mm-hmm.
reliving that same feeling. And that's why I think it's so important to have honest conversations with ourselves. Like, really try to be real with ourselves. Like, yeah, we could put a front on with other people and with the way the rest of the world sees us. Um, but I can tell you, like, from my own perspective, talking about our mental health and talking about our stress levels, and not keeping it completely bottled inside, is definitely something that is healing, because you have to get these emotions out too, or else they'll eat away at you. And that
Mm-hmm.
kind of segues into my next thing. Because of doing the work that you do, Sarah, um, when you talk to patients, what would you say, like, people who are diagnosed with, say, cancer, what kind of common ground is there with people that are dealing with very high cortisol, high stress levels, high stress lifestyle? Is there any dots there to be connected that you have seen in your line of work?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them will have had in the past, 5, 7 years, some sort of traumatic event in their life
Mm,
that they have had a hard time kind of dealing with, whether it's a divorce or the loss of a loved one or the loss of a job or a move or a illness, or like there's something usually that will set the stage of the body then being metabolically just in
mm,
chaos. So, and that probably is true for everybody, whether they end up getting, a diagnosis of cancer or not. We all probably have unhealed wounds um, from past, traumas, experiences, and everybody handles those different. So, someone where you may think that that's not a big deal. Your childhood was amazing. Like, what are you talking
mm-hmm,
about? You had everything you ever needed. But in that mind of that child, something traumatic happened, and their experience is going to be their experience and only their experience. And so,
mm-hmm,
trying to be able to kind of go through that, and I've done my fair share of therapy work and healing broken wound, whatever, unhealed trauma bonds, whatever it is,
mm-hmm,
because you have to be able to process those things. But no, I most of my cancer patients, there was something that happened traumatically several years prior, and when we heal someone from the diagnosis of cancer, because I feel like cancer is just a cry in the body of just metabolic chaos.
mm-hmm.
And so when you heal that, I tell all my patients this: it's mind, body, soul, right? If we
Yeah.
fix your body and we haven't corrected what's going on mentally and emotionally, then you're you're not the success rate is not going to be as good as if we actually can get through all of those. So mind, body, soul truly needs to be healed. And I have so many too. They're like, well, how long do I have to eat like this? And how long, and it's like, this is
Mm,
not, it's,
mm-hmm.
it's a lifestyle change. I think the word diet,
Yeah.
we're like, we psych ourselves out of doing something all the time. Our brains are super, like it'll override what you want to do. So I try to use the word lifestyle change. This is not something that, once in a while, sure, you can have a dessert, whatever, but that should be very infrequent. So trying to just put people on a path that they metabolically can stay healthy, and they don't have to worry about a recurrence of whatever it is. So mind,
Mm-hmm.
body, soul really needs to be fixed to truly heal from anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I mean, on that note, I mean, I'm sure there are people you deal with, like, I know it's hard for people to even just step away from toxic relationships, right? So if you have somebody who is trying to heal and trying to recover, but they're living under the same roof with a person that every time they look at them, their insides go completely acidic, and the conversation is always acidic and arguing and yelling and bickering. I mean, how do you how do you deal with that? Like if a patient is in that kind of turmoil, like are you able to get through to them? Is that a hard nut to crack? Like what does that conversation look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of just eye-opening experiences for them. And
Mm,
so I have several patients who are in that exact environment. And
mm,
I tell them all the time, like for you to truly heal, you've got to get yourself out of that, whether it's going to a friend's house or divorcing a spouse or, leaving a toxic job. Like I have a lot of patients, just their job
mm,
is so unhealthy for them. um, a move, whatever it is. Like there's been story after story of patients. There was one guy, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, pretty terminal, depending on the stage.
mm.
Toxic marriage, toxic job, toxic environment. He was just so stressed out, and he decided he was just going to leave it all. And he left his marriage, he left his job, he moved to this island. He's like, I'm just going to scuba dive because that's what I want to do. And
Wow.
he healed himself. And so going scuba diving and having that high flow oxygen, being in the sun, eating healthy, getting out of all of that his toxic world, he healed himself. And so that really is something, like you got to look at, what triggers are going on, and we all have them.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly think the power of forgiveness is so important, and it's hard to do, because a lot of people think forgiveness means that you're going to accept that person back in your life, and it really
Mm,
is not. The power of forgiveness is to heal your own wounds,
mm-hmm.
not to allow that toxic relationship, whether it's a family member or a loved one or a spouse or a employer or whatever it is, but
Mm-hmm.
to forgive and then be able to start healing is critical. I think so many people hold on to a failed marriage, a failed job, whatever, and it truly eats away at them. So if you meet someone and all they can talk about is how horrible their ex was, what their ex did to them, what their last employer did to them, they're 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 eating themselves up. And so the power of forgiveness is, it's a tool that needs to be learned by all, because we all need to learn to forgive. Doesn't mean
Mm.
you allow that toxicity back in your life, but you can now just take that off your shoulders and start truly healing. So
Yeah.
that's a lesson, that it's a hard lesson to learn, and it's been a hard one for me, but
Mm.
it truly is. You're allowed to walk away free.
Yeah. That's a very deep, deep statement. And I want to just reiterate that. And it's so true. It's like forgiveness is not about the other person, it's about you. Right?
Hmm.
You reap the benefits of forgiving, not the other person. It's about you. And when you harbor stuff, it's only going to eat away at us, the individual that's holding that. Um, and I do want to say, I want to put this out there because I believe words can manifest things, and this has been a dream of mine after hearing that guy. My dream someday I will make this happen. I want to live in a tropical environment, and I just want to train people on the beach and crack coconuts open all day on the beach, and just that's my dream. That is my dream. Simple, simple, simple,
Hmm.
simple. And I want to
Hmm.
make that happen at some point in my life. Um, anyway, so stress, so there's obviously the external stressors, right? And again, there's so much of it, and the world that we live in, so fast paced. We wake up, if we're grabbing our phone first thing, there's just so many things coming through our eyes, our brains
Yeah.
processing it, and then our organs are being attacked by these emotions on how we're processing things. It all has that effect. Everything is in sync in that sense. Um, One of the things that I always try to get people to be aware of, and I'm so guilty of this because I have to check in with myself a lot of the times. I think so many people are not breathing. And what I mean by
Mm.
that is, like, you think of the human body, yeah, it can go days without food. It can go days, weeks without water and food. How long can it really go without oxygen? Not very long, right?
6 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, not very long. And when you think of most people, we wake up, everything's like, gotta do this, gotta do that. Like you're kind of in panic breathing mode. I mean, I
Sure.
encourage the listeners right now who are listening to this, if you just close your eyes and take 3 really aggressive breaths in through your nose, and just like, and don't even blow it out, just take it in so aggressive that you just kind of like it out. And you can feel that expansion just even in your lungs, and you could tell like, man, I haven't been breathing properly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can feel it right now because I haven't resetted with this just in the last couple of days. I can tell that like I'm
Yeah.
not breathing enough, because you can just from those 3 breaths, I can feel a little bit of relaxation and tingling in my head, like tension just
Mhm.
kind of like opening, right? So when you think of that, how dangerous that is for our body, because if we're not breathing properly, the body is in fact going into some level of fight or flight, because you're in panic mode.
Mhm.
The greatest teacher for that, I'm sure you guys have heard me say this before, but I'll say it again, is cold exposure. When I do those ice baths,
Mm.
you are forced to breathe properly. When I first started practicing cold exposure, I wasn't making it very long, because your brain does not know how to process the stress of the cold. So you are automatically going, oh my God, I'm cold. And you got to get out. But I've been able to push my body the longest. I mean, I'm not, this is not something that I recommend anybody does, but I'm so crazy sometimes with wanting to challenge my mind. I mean, I've done 20 minutes and 31-degree ice bath, 31, 32 degrees. I've done 20
Eh.
minutes. Is that safe? No. Is it stupid? Yes. But I'm stupid like that, I guess. I just want to see sometimes how far I could push my mind. Um, but I say that to say is like, I was able to do that by learning how to train the mind. And why I
Mhm.
always advocate the cold exposures, because if you choose to do things like that on a weekly basis that are creating so much stress, but you find stillness within that stress, I've noticed, and I've said this before, like because of cold exposure practice that I do, when life gets stressful, there are parts in my brain that recognize, oh, there's stress, and I can feel myself like, instead of like, oh my God, like how am I gonna? I can feel my brain like breathe, like because it recognizes
Mhm.
stress, because it trains for it on a weekly basis. Like 4 to 5 days a week, I'm doing an ice bath. So because I'm choosing stress and learning how to tolerate it and work through it through the breath, when I get stressed through life, I can now learn how to breathe through it. And I think that's such an important thing for everyone listening, to grasp that concept of like, we must train for stress because life will give us stress. We must choose stressful things because we have to train ourselves to learn how to work through them in order to be able to conquer them when we're not expecting it, right?
Mhm.
It's you never want to be unprepared, right? It's like with anything in life, right? I mean, if we're unprepared when life throws us a curveball, we crumble, and
Mhm.
that's not a good look. That's not what any of us wants for stressful situations in life. But I will say, and I'd like for you to touch on this, Sarah, from the medical perspective. One of the things I think also that people are um, doing more harm than good to themselves.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people like to become weekend warriors, and what I mean by that, with my fitness background, is that they abuse the crap out of their bodies all week long, right? With work and just stress, and they don't find the time to exercise. And I know a lot of people that just try to do some form of exercise on the weekends. A couple people may get 1 or 2 sessions in during the week, but early morning before work. But these people, if they're not dialing in with sleep, with the proper nutrition coming in, they're consuming alcohol maybe on like a 4 to 5 day a week basis. Maybe they're smoking, but I know many people that do all those things, but they'll still go for like a workout. And the craze in the fitness industry currently over the last, I'd say, several years to a decade, it's been high intensity interval training, which is great. But for a person that is breaking down internally and not doing the right things on a daily basis, spin classes, things of high intensity. If you're in fight or flight, just in basic levels of life, and you're not nurturing your body and allowing your body to heal through medicinal properties of food, recovery, supplementation. My question to you, Sarah, for the people, I think this is so important for them to hear this. How beneficial or detrimental is high intensity exercise for a person who's got cortisol levels through the roof 7 days a week because they're not doing anything to help themselves internally?
Yeah, no, it's just going to continue to drive it. And high cortisol levels going to lead to all kinds of metabolic dysfunction. And, eventually the adrenals are going to crash too. And then now you're just on the opposite end of this high cortisol. You've got adrenal fatigue. So you have to support the body. And I'm guilty of this too. I mean, I am a go kind of person. I try to get 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Sometimes I don't. I'm up at 4:30. I'm at the gym by 5:15. Um, my days. I'm always putting out fires, and so I have to practice what I preach as well. So I try to find ways to lower stress. And I have patients every day that are diagnosed with whatever, and they're coming to get help. And if you don't fix what's going on a spiritual level as well, then physically you're not going to be fixed. And there's one more thing too that I want to add, and this is going back a little bit to the power of forgiveness. Is we have to learn to forgive ourselves too. So there's things that we do in life as broken humans who, we all fall short, and that's why Jesus had to die on the cross for our sins, because nobody was worthy of what the expectations are. We all do things that we regret, and so being able to forgive ourselves as well. And so it's just, if you just one step at a time, kind of build yourself back up. But sleep is vital. The sun is vital. Being out in sunshine. The Western medicine, big pharma industry is like, sun is dangerous and put your sunscreen on and don't go. Like 15, 20 minutes early morning sunshine is amazing.
Yeah.
It resets everything. So your sleep is important. Resetting with sunshine, exercise is vital. All those things, you can make that really calm the mind as well. And so, and you're right, and breath work is phenomenal too. So there's all these things that are free. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
There's free treatment out there. Put your feet in the sand, hug a tree. I have a lot of patients, they're like, it's cold, it's wet, I don't have any grass where I live, it's all concrete, it's whatever. Literally hug a tree. Like, get in touch with what God put on this earth, and things will change. But it's a daily thing that you have to do, because it's like checking in with yourself and carrying your cross every day. Satan is constantly on the attack. He never gives up. And so being able to consistently try to get yourself back into alignment, homeostasis, where you can, our bodies are made to heal. And as long as we don't keep hitting it with all these negative things going on, the body will heal itself. And so, you wrap that all up together, and the journey of whatever diagnosis you've been given can change.
Absolutely. When you say that too about Satan, I know for me, through my spiritual journey and my growth and my walk closer to and with Christ over the last decade of my life, but definitely more these last 5 years or so, I get attacked a lot at night in my sleep. And Satan, again, the energy is chaos. And he doesn't want you to rest, because when you're rested, you can think clearer, and when you think clearer, you can connect more to the power and the presence of God. So for me, that's a big challenge for me. It's not, It's interesting. Like during the day, I'm not a stressed out person. I handle my stresses pretty well. It's the nighttime that is my
Mhm.
biggest challenge. When I tell myself like, all right, I'm going to go to bed, and my head hits the pillow, it's not easy for me. It's a constant battle for me, actually, that I've dealt with. Insomnia and like dealing with stuff like that has been like a good 20-year thing for me. But definitely over the last 5 to 10 years, it's actually intensified. I mean, to the point that, not to sound crazy, but when you're sleep deprived, like I always say sleep deprivation is the best way to torture somebody.
Yeah.
You literally lose your mind. Um, and I know the difference in voices, because on times when I do long periods of water fasting, I've had like such beautiful moments of, um, you can hear the voice of God. I know His voice in my head. You can feel it. It's a power. It's a presence. It's calming. It's warm. It's nurturing, and the message is very clear, distinct, and to the point. But there are a lot of times when if I'm battling sleep issues, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear a different voice, and it's not pleasant, and it's a distinct difference of light versus darkness, and I know the difference, and I know the sound, because the things, again, when you go, I mean, it's improved so much for me over the last, I'd say, couple of years. But you still get pockets of that, and when you have a couple of nights of where sleep is not good, and you're somewhat, I guess, delirious and sleep deprived, there's chaos in your head. It's a very unsettling, battle, you know.
Mhm.
And I always use the analogy, and it's weird because like when like I guess insomnia or an anxiety attack hits you in the middle of the night, it's like all of the stuff that I know and that I try to educate people on. I always use the analogy. It's like jumping out of an airplane, and it's like you're free falling, and you cannot stop until you're ready to pull your chute and hit the ground. So it's like when that feeling comes on, that surge in the nighttime, when I can feel like him trying to tap on me, prayer, breathing, like it's like, excuse me. A lot of that doesn't even work in that moment. It's like I have to like ride it out, almost like
Mhm.
it's like a wave, and you have to ride it out. And like, because all bets are off. Like nothing works for me in that moment that makes sense as I'm saying it to you here right now. And like I said, the crazy part is like this never happens to me during the day. It's only
Mm.
like when I'm trying to actually rest, because I know He knows that I'm a force to be reckoned with when I'm rested. But when I'm
Mhm.
not rested, He can break me, you know. Um, as a person with Tourette syndrome, when you don't sleep, it magnifies the symptoms. It makes them so much worse, because anyone who doesn't sleep, your nervous system is just going to get trashed. So imagine having an
Right.
issue with your nervous system with no sleep. It's a recipe for, I don't want to say disaster, but it's a battle. Like it is a battle. Um, so it's so important for us to nurture ourselves, and, as you said, forgive ourselves, because a lot of times if we don't forgive ourselves, we take that stuff to bed with us too at night, and
Mhm.
the mind just keeps rolling over things, right? And playing things over in our head, or why did I do that? Why didn't I do it this way? And it's like that statement, right? If it's in the past, like you're not going to fix that. So the best option right there is to do your best to let it go, right?
Mhm.
We hold on to things, and I think as human beings, we find it so much easier to love other people more than we love ourselves. We find it easier to forgive other people than we do ourselves a lot of the time. I think there's a lot of selfishness in this world, but that's not the type of self-love that I'm talking about. There's a huge difference between being selfish and actually genuinely loving yourself and forgiving yourself and giving yourself grace, right? There's a
Mhm.
big difference in that. Um, so another thing that I think is important, and I would love for us to touch on, is, again, we're talking internal stressors. Again, the obvious stressors are everything that we kind of rambled off about, the outer world. Um, But there's a lot of you listening to this right now or watching this that are willingly putting your body into fight or flight by the things that you're consuming on a daily basis of food, of certain supplements, of drinks, of alcohol. Maybe it's even protein drinks that have different types of fillers and chemicals in them. Um, so I think I want to, I think that's an important thing to dive into because I think, again, when people think stress, they think of the obvious: my work, my family, my
Mhm.
friends, the world. But like, you can negate all of that. You could master all of that stuff and still be going through these issues of stress and being in fight or flight just by how you're treating your body on a daily basis, right?
Mhm.
If you're a person who is ingesting energy drinks,
Mhm.
um, color dyes, right?
Yeah.
Fast food, microwave food, again, alcohol. Alcohol is I think for certain people, I never like to trash moderate alcohol consumption, and the reason why I don't consume it, but I always think of my great grandmother. She lived to 102 years old, and she every night had a glass of red wine, maybe a glass and a half, but every night, even if she was sick, old school Sicilian Italian, she had a glass of red wine every single night, right? So is there is there maybe some, something to be said about that? I think possibly. I just know for me, alcohol doesn't agree with, but I'm just saying, I think that in moderation can actually be maybe calming on a stress standpoint. But I always like to tell people there are so many other better options that don't come with negative side effects like alcohol could come
Sure.
with. Again, because then we start getting into gut disruption, gut microbiome disruption. I know a lot of people that even if they have a glass of wine, this is why I don't drink it. I'm very sensitive, I feel like, to sulfites. Like I haven't drank in over 25 years because it disrupts my sleep. Like if I have I love a glass of red wine. Like even if I have a glass, I get like hot, clammy, the sweats, like my body just like rejects it. It doesn't actually create a restful night's sleep. But there are people that can have a glass of wine and feel that decompression. And it may not impact them like that. So I guess what I'm getting at is like everything that we put in our body can either be causing fight or flight or combating it, right? And I think that there's a lot of people that are not addressing these quote unquote silent killers or conductors of stress in their body by things that they're putting into their body. Because if you're putting in something that's causing inflammation, now your adrenals have to pump cortisol. It has to regulate inflammation. There's this whole process that goes on. So dealing from your perspective, Sarah, with again back to your line of work or even with yourself, how important do you feel it is to try to take that magnifying lens and figuring out what you're putting in and how it's affecting and impacting your body?
Oh, it's critical. I mean, I personally I would rather skip a meal than eat at a fast food restaurant.
Hmm.
So but that's me. Um, I'm not tempted by any kind of dessert. If there's, creme brulee, I will have to try. But otherwise, like you could bring out whatever, and it's not tempting.
Hmm.
I don't have the urge to want it. I eat pretty clean. I don't eat a ton. I eat when I'm hungry. I don't use food as a crutch to suppress feelings. And we can talk about alcohol and people using that. Same thing that we can talk about people that use food as a drug to kind of numb their feelings. But I indulge in alcohol periodically. I
Hmm.
don't drink any wine from the US anymore. I've gotten
Hmm.
very picky with what I will have. So if it's a glass of wine, I'm getting it out of the country, Italy or somewhere else where I know that
Hmm.
glyphosate isn't used because that's
Hmm.
very important.
Yeah.
So am I going to consume something that's filled with Roundup? Not on purpose.
Right.
I would rather, and I don't I'm good skipping a meal versus, on the road stopping out at In and Out or people go In and Out's so healthy and it's like no, no, it's not. I mean, In and Out's not healthy, Chick-fil-A's not healthy. There's certain fast food chains, I think, that use a Christian type of logo to make them stand out for people who like understand how disgusting McDonald's is. But you're eating the same crap, and so it really is. Yeah, and the type of water. I mean, I just talked to a patient the other day. We think about all these toxins in our environment that will put yourself metabolically at a disadvantage. Plastic's huge, and we haven't really done a topic on plastic, but we could do microplastics sometime. But I told one patient, I said, get rid of your plastic cutting boards. And she kind of looked at me like, what? I'm like, do you have, I was actually kind of surprised as a cancer patient. I said, you're cutting your food on a plastic cutting board? And yeah, you're not. I'm like, no way. I mean, so like there's so many things and all this stuff in our bodies when it's not supposed to be processing these things will put our bodies at a state of stress. So it is, you really have to try to knock out and slowly and surely, right? Because if you think about all the things that most people in America need to change, it's extremely overwhelming and people give up. They're like, you want me to do, and there's 30 things and they're like, forget it, I can't. So you just start it with one and master that, and then go for another and master that and go for another and master that, instead of just like 30 things we're going to do all at once. It's never, no one is going to succeed at that. So for me, I used to eat crappy food. I mean, I used to love oh my gosh, the Coffee Mate coffee creamer, the French vanilla. I mean, 5 years ago, my coffee was mainly that. I mean, I had no idea. I had to go, down these deep dives into what I was consuming and realize, like, I mean, back when I can't believe it's not butter spray was out. Like, I loved that stuff. I put it on
I can't
everything.
believe
It
it's
didn't
not
matter.
butter. What's his
Yeah,
name?
the spray. It's awful. Like, I look at the ingredients now, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was the main thing that we put on our food to flavor our food. It's just horrific.
Crazy, right?
So you and I, we've had to learn these things,
Yep.
and we've had to make changes in our lives based off of what we've learned. But you get to a point finally where you understand, and it's like, someone puts a Red Bull in front of me, there's no way I'm going to drink that. If someone puts a plastic water bottle in front of me, I will go out of my way to go make sure that I get something in glass. Now, do I consume plastic, water in a plastic water bottle? Periodically, if I have to. I just ran a marathon and I forgot my water and my electrolytes in the fridge at the hotel. And so I was stuck with a plastic water bottle, not my first choice.
Isn't it
but I
crazy
needed
when you do? Because like when you travel, you have no choice, and when you're on an airplane, you can the taste is like, because I never drink out of plastic. You can taste it. It's such a, I don't care what brand it is, what quality they claim it is. When you drink out of plastic, when you haven't and you never do, you can taste the difference. It's unreal, right?
All the chemicals, all those forever chemicals, and they're called forever chemicals because they're forever chemicals.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I travel, I will pack things. So I make sure that if I'm going on a long car ride, I will bring a cooler and I'll have, a piece of steak cut up, and I'll have a healthy protein bar, and I'll have some fruit. So I'll make sandwiches for the kids. Like, I really try to make it where the only stops we're doing is gas and bathroom breaks. Because our society is such that the things that are convenient, and everybody wants convenience, are things that are going to make you sick.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's always, I'm the same way. Like a road trip is different. Like I'll pack the trunk up and make sure every hotel stop I have to go to has either a kitchenette or some sort of a mini fridge. Flying, obviously, again, you're at their mercy when it comes to water. But it does. It's like if everything, you just said it, like everything that is accessible is there, because it's designed to keep you within the matrix, in the sense, right? It's not going to help you in any way, shape, or form, like whatsoever. And even back to the plastic bottles, I can't tell you how many, and I'm sure I think we've all seen this, but I've seen, like, even when you go to like a gas station, like a mini mart, I'll be pumping gas and they drop off like the big flats of like the bottles of water. And I live in Arizona. I'm in the desert. I lived in Los Angeles. in the dead of summer, you see like these cases just sitting out in the back before they even load them into the store. So that plastic is just baking in the sun.
Mhm.
So I don't care if you tell me, oh, I get it. A lot of people, when I have this discussion with them with the bottled water, they'll say, well, when I go into the store, it's in the refrigerator, and then I get it and put it in my refrigerator. It's like, yeah, but what happened before it got to the store? Like you're not
Mhm.
thinking about that. And that's the
Mhm.
$1 million question, you know, is it, if a truck had to take it, through several states or whatever, like, was that truck completely air conditioned, especially if it was during the dead of summer? Like there's so many variables. Like when the store gets it, like I said, you see them sitting out there. Um, it's problematic. And again, if you're taking in those forever chemicals, you're taking in the glyphosate, you're taking in the color dyes, you're taking in caffeine, you're taking in MSG, you're taking in genetically engineered foods, like, and again, those things that I'm rambling, I mean, to somebody like you, Sarah, that may, or like when I
Like
hear that, it
caffeine.
just seems,
Hold on. Let me see.
oh, yeah, you like caffeine, you like, but again, you're doing everything else right. So it's like when you throw all of that, what I just rambled together, that's a very common
Yeah.
landscape for most people. All of those things, like, check, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that. And it's like you're bombarding your system with all of these elements that, forget all the stuff that we can get into, gut and all that. We're talking stress here today. But all of those things that I just rambled off, those are causing internal stress. That's, again,
Mhm.
that these are the things that I do with the FDN work that I do, because it's all about balancing cortisol naturally through diet, rest, recovery, exercise, supplementation, and lifestyle. That if you start looking at what you're taking in every day, because if we're under chronic stress and the adrenals are constantly pumping cortisol, your hormones are taking a major hit off of that. Because if your
Mhm.
cortisol cannot be produced anymore from your adrenals, your pregnenolone has to come and assist in that. And pregnenolone is the godfather hormone in the human body. Without
Mhm.
pregnenolone, you're not getting estrogen, estradiol, estriol, testosterone, DHEA. So if your pregnenolone is getting tapped out because your cortisol can't be produced anymore from your adrenals, your hormones are bottoming out. It's the
Mhm.
classic symptom, like in my world of fitness, when somebody's overtrained. Those people,
Yeah.
they work out all the time, but they're not seeing results, right? They can't make sense of it. And it's like, well, why? And then if you try to test their cortisol patterns and see where they're at, I don't even have to do tests on most people. I could just say, like, tell me when what, take me through your day. Oh, I wake up at 6, I'm fine. I have my cup of coffee and then I go work. The common thing is by 11 to 1 o'clock, I crash. And it's like, well,
Mhm.
why do you think you're crashing? And
Mhm.
then it's a repetitive cycle every day, every day, every day. So if you're crashing, and that's when the person that overtrains, they get no results. They're
Mhm.
putting all this work in, but nothing's changing. They're getting extra belly fat, and that, like, from the belly button to the pelvic bone, that rubber tire thing going on. Um,
Mhm.
Brittle hair, brittle nails, lack of sex drive, can't sleep good, um, you name it, insomnia, stressed out all the time, can't get their thoughts together. Those are key indicators that your hormones are being taxed and attacked. And they get taxed and attacked when you're under chronic stress, because it all coincides within the endocrine system, right?
Mhm.
Um, so so all of these people that are consuming these types of chemicals, I think this is like such an important thing for you guys listening to this right now or watching, to hear us talk about that, because it's something that I think most people downplay, and they just think of stress. Like I said, I'll bring it back to what I said earlier. They think of stress as work, family, friends, life, the government, what's going on. But little do they fail to recognize that they are willingly putting their body through this uncontrollable stress every single day. And it just,
Mhm.
every 24 hours, it just repeats itself. It repeats
Mhm.
itself, you know? Um, and I think that's it's very detrimental to anybody who wants to um, start combating stress in their life, and just overall feel healthier in their life, of really looking at what they're putting in their body. Um, do you have any recommendations for people? What are things that you would tell a patient that they can take? Because I know this is I see on our lives, all people care about is like what can they take? And I see that
Yeah.
with my intake calls too. Everybody has that mentality. What can I take? What can I take? And I'm like, well, let's talk about what you could do first. Then we can look at what you could take. So
Hmm.
since we've discussed a lot of what they can do to combat stress, what would you recommend things that people can take? And again, people, I'll just say this is not medical advice. So this is
Hmm.
just for educational purposes only. Please consult with your physician. but
Yeah.
but what did you recommend? What are things that people can take to help combat stress at a better
I
capacity?
like adaptogens. So
Mm-hmm.
there's one I take from Integrative Therapeutics called Cortisol Manager.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take it in the evening before sleep, but you can take it throughout the day if you're, having a hard time managing stress. Um, you know, rhodiola,
Mm-hmm.
ashwagandha, those kinds of things can be beneficial. Certain teas can have some calming stuff. Magnesium is very beneficial. It's a smooth muscle relaxer, so it can kind of calm things
Mm-hmm.
down. So I'm going to go for the more natural things. Um, and I know people they jump right to a pill if they're stressed out,
Yeah.
and that again that's big pharma is putting a band-aid on it. So it really is tapping into the mind, and the mind is so incredibly powerful because you can heal from just about anything with the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But Satan, again, like we've talked about many times, is always on the attack. He's not going after the
Mm-hmm.
people who aren't saved because he has nothing he needs to do with them, but he's going to go after the people who continue to try to walk closer with God. He's going to attack those the hardest. So being aware of that, but you really can, if you can just get yourself um, easier said than done into a state of just relaxation. Um, and there can be other things that you use, like you do the cold plunge. I just found out by a patient the other day that in San Luis Obispo, they've got this place that you can actually go soak. It's like this water soak. It's only about yay deep of this
Float tank.
a float tank,
It's
and you
amazing.
get in. I've not done that yet, but I'm totally
Oh
going to
man,
go do that where
try it.
everything, yeah,
Mm.
she's like, you need to come and check it out. And they've got this. So those are things like, I think you can really almost, you handle all your senses and you just kind of just exit out and just let yourself reset. That's so important. So things like that can really be beneficial. Walking on the beach, we've got the beach. You guys can
Mm.
walk and put your feet in the sand. If you're on the beach, let the waves actually crash over your feet. It's even more beneficial than just walking on the sand. And so there's things like God put all these things on this earth. I turned to the plant based before I turned to any kind of chemical base
Yep.
um, because He already knew what was going to happen. I mean, we're using plant based stuff to help treat cancer and
Mm-hmm.
not these crazy chemicals from chemotherapy. So there's things that are available, and the Western medicine world tries to hide and corrupt. But um, America truly is, I think, one of the sickest nations. We consume the most prescription medications. Um, we
Mm-hmm.
have the most chemicals, the most you know glyphosate and microplastics and heavy metals and um, food dyes. And I mean, it's disgusting what is made for the American population versus what's made for other countries. So
Yep.
really tapping into that too. But you can detox your body. Your body wants to. We're made to clean up ourselves, but we need to stop putting all these hits against it so that it just metabolically we're a mess in America. Truly a mess.
Yeah. 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 And just for the listeners, that the float tank. I haven't done it in a while, but first
Mm.
of all, definitely try it, Sarah. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So what they do is they put, I don't know how many pounds of Epsom salt in this tub, and they basically replicate the Dead Sea effect. So when you go in this water, you effortlessly float, and the water is the exact temperature as our body temperature. So when
Mm.
it's sensory deprivation. So you lay in this water, you effortlessly float. It is in fact the only thing that you can do to get every single muscle to relax in your body. So a lot of people that get in heavy severe trauma, car accidents, things like that, it's so beneficial because you relax every single muscle because you're just floating effortlessly, and you actually fall asleep. And there's a few, the ones that I have done, they're like almost like a tanning bed, like kind of clamshell. So they have these ambient lights on the top and on the bottom, and they have therapeutic music. and you can either shut the light off completely, or it goes purple, red, whatever. But what happens is, as you lie there and your body completely relaxes, you become one with the water. That's why it's sensory deprivation. Like, you'll have moments where you forget that you're in your body. It's almost, it's
Mm.
like taking a psychedelic. It's wild, because you can't feel your body at all. All you're aware of is your soul, like at a certain point. So it's a very relaxing therapy to try, float tanks. Um, and what I'll add to it too is, I think acupuncture is great, as well as
Hmm.
acupressure. I have an acupressure mat that's amazing. I'll lay on that at night. I'll stand on it. The bottom of your feet, every nerve from your body trails all the way down to the bottom of your feet. So when you do acupressure, hitting that on the bottoms, it's amazing. Um, what else? There's a breath work. There's definitely, I'm a big fan of the adaptogenic herbs.
Hmm.
Um, One thing, I don't know what your take is on this, Sarah, with magnesium. Magnesium works great for a lot of people. I know for myself, I can't take it every day. If I take too much of it, it could actually have the opposite effect on me, where I'll get like heart palpitations or feel angst. Have you
Hmm.
have any input on that for people when it comes to
Well,
magnesium?
magnesium, yeah, I mean, the heart is a muscle, so too much of anything, including magnesium, can affect the heart muscle.
Mm,
Someone who's in a rhythm called torsades is they give you IV magnesium. So yeah, it absolutely can affect it. So I do
yeah.
test red blood cell magnesium on my patients, which is still probably it's the best test we've got, but I don't know how
Hmm.
accurate it truly is. So too much of anything, yes. So 300-400 milligrams. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. And you eat super clean, like you're getting most of your
Mm,
uh, vitamins and nutrients through your food.
right.
So you probably get plenty of magnesium in just what you consume. So then to
Mm,
add high doses of that,
yeah.
and our skin is porous. So what we put on our skin will go into our body. So if someone's doing like magnesium soaks and then magnesium sprays and then magnesium creams and then they're consuming magnesium orally, like that's a lot of magnesium. So
Mm,
moderation always.
yeah.
I go on my spurts of like taking my supplements pretty regularly, and then I'm like, okay, supplement fatigue, and I'll stop for a little bit.
Yeah.
So I have not gotten to the point where I've overmagged, but absolutely that can be a thing.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and I think one other thing that I think I mentioned to you the other day that I've been loving, that I've been doing recently, is the castor oil in the belly button.
Hmm.
It's an ancient Ayurvedic principle, but what I've noticed is you sleep very deep, but you have to be careful because you can feel very hungover the next day as well. And the thought process is like when you put it in the belly button. I mean, think about the belly button, people, right? Think of like what was attached to the belly button, and what
Yeah.
where life comes from when it comes to the belly button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and they say the abdominal branch connects to the vagus nerve, and when you put the oil in there, they say to put like maybe just like 3 little drops, and then you massage it for about a minute or two in a circular motion in the belly button. And they say it helps to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system. So I've been finding it to be very, like, at night when I do it, it's almost like that feeling of like after you have a glass of wine, you feel very like decompressed. The sleep
Hmm.
is very deep. There are a lot of women that say it helps with menstrual cycle, especially like cramps from PMSing, digestion, bloating, and then the big thing is sleep. So that's another thing. And I've even played with it during the day recently. And you definitely can feel something. It's pretty wild. It's a pretty wild
Hmm.
thing. So I mean,
Hmm.
but you have to be careful with castor oil. The linoleic acid in it, it's very potent. And I mean, there are people that can, I've heard of people putting that like over tumors and like things happening. I know whenever I've done the liver gallbladder cleanse. I don't know if you've ever done that, but that's where you kind of fast for like 3 to 5 days, and then on like the fifth day, you drink this concoction of olive oil. It's so disgusting. It's so hard to drink. It's like I forgot how many ounces of olive oil it is. It's so hard to get down. And then you consume it with like grapefruit juice, and then you put castor oil on the liver. You lay in like a fetal position on the side of the liver, and then the next morning you have to take a couple doses of magnesium citrate to create a laxative effect. And like you stimulate your liver and your gallbladder, and you literally, it's not, I mean, little TMI, but you see like what looks almost like it looks like lentils and peas in the toilet bowl that just come out of you. And the, again, the castor oil is a big component of like stimulating the toxicity from the liver to purge it. But anyone who's done that probably knows, but like when you do that, like the whites of your eyes literally look like loose leaf paper. They're so white because again, you're just purging out of the liver. And the kidneys, gallbladder, it's a pretty amazing cleanse for anybody who has not tried something like that. So I say all that to say, yes, with castor oil, please tread carefully because it's potent for sure, But yeah, so those are all things that you can do to help combat stress, both internal and external. I think we covered a lot of ground here today. I think today was a really informative episode for people. Yeah, I mean, do you have anything else to add to this before we sign off?
No, I think it's a daily battle, and just having tools in your tool belt to be able to handle it is kind of what you and I are working on for those that are listening, and for ourselves as well. So it's, everyone's going to have stress in their lives, and how you handle it is going to be key on how, by preventing disease, and having a total overall health. So that's a good one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'll just say, guys, breathe. Breathe. And yeah, just breathe and try to find, we just got to try to find and find peace in every which way, shape, or form we can, and allow our bodies to relax and just give ourselves moments to just be and empty our mind and literally, like a form of meditation, just sitting and just feeling your lungs fill up with oxygen, decompress with oxygen, just that simplicity of, I always say, like, try to put your mind into your chest and try to see like the walls of your chest, your lungs just expanding, just dial in like that simplistic kind of visual to just be and breathe. Because chaos is everywhere, and we must do whatever we can to combat it. And that it really takes an intentional mind and a mindful mind to be able to do so. So in saying that, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We are the Overstood Human Podcast, and my name is Frank Tortorici. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube, X, Rumble, and Spotify. And please always feel free to check us out for our Wednesday night Facebook Lives as well, typically around 8:45 Eastern, 5:45 Pacific. And we thank you all. Sarah, always a pleasure.
Likewise. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Overstood Human Podcast. Be sure to join in next week. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Always consult with your physician before starting any exercise program or doing anything contained in this podcast.